Turning to Malton on the 3rd of March 1965, we wait under the overall roof for the Whitby goods train to come up to the station. On the left, Malton engine shed, closed on the 13th of April 1963, is still standing. The pickup, having left York in the early hours, has shunted Malton Yard and eases up the twin-platformed single line with B1 Class 61002 Impala of York Shed in charge. Aboard one of the two guards vans, the second being provided for the Railway Correspondence and Travel Society members who are making the journey, we can look straight through the closed two-road shed. We roll gently up to Malton East signal box, seen under the footbridge and just over the A64 level crossing, the double junction bearing right up to Scarborough Road Junction on the Pillmore to Driffield line. This was where J27 65894 ran round its train at the beginning of our journey to Gilling. Passing under the Gilling line, we can see the viaduct over the River Derwent. Having to change the film meant I missed turning off the Scarborough line at Rillington Junction, 4 miles from Malton. Guards vans are notoriously rough riders, so it was impossible to film and record at the same time. So the sound is a recording of a footplate trip made on an identical loco at another date. At 6 miles from Rillington Junction, we are approaching Black Bull Level Crossing on the Malton Pickering A169 trunk road, and the fireman is topping up his fire. As we run over Mill Lane junctions on the approach to Pickering, the lines on the right were the Forge Valley line to Scarborough, closed in 1950, and coming in on the left, the trackbed of the line to Kirby Moorside, closed in 1953. Standing on the down siding by the signal box is another ganger's trolley. Passing the closed single road engine shed, we run over Hungate Level Crossing with the goods shed and yard on our left. Impala busies herself shunting the yard, but every time she pulls forward, the cramped conditions meant that Bridge Street Level Crossing has to be opened and then closed. Finally, reversing past an original North Eastern Railway shunt signal, she has made up the train for Whitby. This class of mixed traffic loco, built by the London North Eastern Railway and then British Railways, was nicknamed Bongos, after the first 40 were given antelope names. The class eventually numbered 409 members, of which 2 survive. Passing over Bridge Street Crossing, an unusual signal with both sides painted red controls the entry and exit to the loading dock siding. Pickering Station, built in 1845, lost its overall roof in 1952. The Whitby to Pickering Railway had been opened in 1836 and was the third in Yorkshire to carry passengers, being preceded by the Middlesbrough extension on the Stockton and Darlington Railway and the Leeds and Selby Railway. It was horse-drawn throughout, except for the ropework Goathland incline. Heading past High Mill signal box, we run to Newbridge, where a siding ran into Hargreaves Quarries. It was stone from here that it was hoped would keep the line to Rillington Junction open after closure of passenger and goods services in 1965. Leaving the Vale of Pickering, a single track commences here and runs to Levisham. Originally double, One was taken up and sent to France for use in the First World War, but unfortunately the ship carrying it was torpedoed and sank in the English Channel. In 1953 I travelled on a Sunday special which started at Leeds from Harrogate via York to Whitby. We did not enter a platform at York, but stood in the siding whilst engines were changed. Eventually we arrived at Whitby for the allotted 2 hours stay. After nearly 4 hours in compartment stock, there was a mad rush for the toilets. Leaving Whitby, we ran down the coastline to Scarborough for a further 2 hours stay, arriving back in Harrogate at 9:30 in the evening, some 13 hours after departure. The cost, 12 and sixpence, or 63p in today's money. Needless to say, we made sure we came back in a corridor coach with toilets. At Levisham, 6 miles from Pickering, the single-line token is given up as double track takes over again. The nearest habitation to Levisham station is the village of Newton, some 350 feet up on the left-hand valley edge. Levisham village is 1.75 miles away on the opposite side. Climbing up the narrower part of Newtondale, with an average gradient of 1 in 140, Pickering Forest stretches away on the left, up onto Pickering Moor. On the right is Levisham Moor, with the trunk road to Whitby and the notorious bends on Saltergate Hill. Passing the disused Newtondale signal box and siding, we enter a series of reverse curves with long check rails to prevent derailments. With the derelict Carter's house on the left, we run round the edge of Fen Moor and approach the summit at Ellerbeck, 532 feet above sea level. The infant Pickering Beck is on the right-hand side of the track, its source in Fen Bog, with its many rare mosses. Newtondale, which begins here, was formed in the Ice Age as the overspill from an 11-mile long lake which extended up Eskdale. Up on the right are the golf balls at Filingdale Early Warning Station. From 1961 I spent nearly 2 years delivering sand and gravel from Braithwaite's quarry at Catterick to the site for the foundations. The Catterick River gravel was full of very hard blue stone, which produced very hard concrete. Goathland Summit signal box, now derelict, marks the end of the climb up. After the Goathland to Pickering Road passes underneath at Moorgates, the course of the old rope incline line leaves to the left. The stone bridge was a cattle arch to allow animal movement past the railway, as in 1836 common land extended from the coast to the Cleveland Hills. The deviation line on which we are now running was opened in 1865, enabling steam locomotives to work from Pickering through to Whitby. Approaching Goathland Station, 14.5 miles from Pickering, the signals are all clear, no shunting today. The camping coach is obviously awaiting better weather. Crossing and recrossing the Merk-Esk River, we pass Darnholme high on the right and meet a Whitby to York train with Class 5 loco number 45447 of Northampton shed in charge. Certainly a long way from home. Passing Grosemont's distance signal at all clear and the village of Beckhole beyond, we arrive at the bottom of the 1 in 49 gradient from Goathland and the end of the 4.5 mile deviation line. The track bed of the original 1836 line to the bottom of the incline at Beckhole comes in at the now disused deviation signal box. Passing the present site of the North York Moors engine shed, we run through Grosemont Junction 18 miles from Pickering, again no shunting. The line up the Esk Valley to Middlesbrough opened in 1865, by which time a large ironworks was established at Grosemont. The gradients from Grosemont to Whitby are comparatively slight, but the line still twists and turns as it crosses and recrosses the River Esk. I now saw the wisdom of the guard when he said his guard's van was a bit rough on the ride and advised me not to leave the tape recorder on the seat. It was all I could do to hang on and hopefully point the camera. Running through Slight Station, 21.25 miles from Pickering, we pass under the A169 trunk road from Malton. With the Esk Viaduct on the skyline, we approach Russup. It can be seen that the River Esk is quite full, held back by a dam which divides the tidal portion of the river from the freshwater portion. Crossing the River Esk for the last time, we run through Russup Station, 22.75 miles from Pickering. When the line was built, the river was diverted to save the cost of 2 swing bridges, as ships regularly sailed up to Russup, the reclaimed land being used to lay the tracks on. In 1885, a line was built from Whitby to Scarborough, passing over the graceful Esk or Larpool Viaduct. This took 2 years to build and is 915 feet in length and 125 feet from the riverbed to the parapet. With St Hilda's Abbey looking down, we roll around the curves to Boghall Junction. Here, Middlesbrough and Scarborough trains, having come down the 1 in 50 spur from Prospect Junction on the high level line, joined for the short journey to Whitby Town Station, 24 miles from Pickering, 35 from Malton. Passing the turntable, our engine is uncoupled and chuffs forward up a siding. A swift change of points, and we roll gently down a parallel one. Not in the rule book, I think. Saying goodbye to 61002 Impala and the staff, we have a quick look at Whitby before catching a train to Scarborough. The cost of brake van trips was first-class travel over the journey, sign an insurance disclaimer, and buy several pints of bitter for the travelling inspector. A collection was also made for the train crew. At this time, Whitby had nearly 50 arrivals and departures daily, but British Railways said all the lines were losing money heavily, and so in March 1965, the line to Scarborough and the line from Grosmont to Pickering closed. Joining our diesel multiple unit, or DMU for short, we leave Whitby Town Station and pass the daily goods train from Middlesbrough shunting its trucks. At Boghall Junction we take the single line up to Prospect Junction. Climbing the 1 in 50 gradient and curving round under the S viaduct, we pass under the unusual where the driver exchanges his token with the signalman. These tokens are the driver's authority to proceed and ensure only one train is allowed into a single line section. In this view we can see that shortage of space was one reason for the siting of the signal box. Also the need to see the tracks of the Scarborough line, which are on the other side of the railings. The line originally continued under the distant Gisborough Road Bridge to Whitby Westcliff Station and on up the coast to Saltburn and Middlesbrough. The signal box, a typical North Eastern Railway one, must have been quite a cold place in winter, except if a steam engine was stopped under it. Loco halt trains to and from Scarborough ran round on the left-hand tracks, as they either hauled the train up from Whitby or held it back on its way down. Continuing our journey, we cross the Esk Viaduct with Whitby Town Gasworks below. The viaduct is not straight, but has a sharp curve at the north end. Climbing away from the Esk Valley on gradients as steep as 1 in 38, Prospect Hill can be seen in the distance. At Horsker Station, 5 miles from Whitby, the only brick-built one on the line, an old North Eastern Railway road van body does duty as a goods warehouse. All the stations were on gradients of varying steepness. Departing, we continue to climb at 1 in 46 to the summit near Ness Point. Rounding the top of Ness Point, some 450 feet above sea level, we begin the descent to Robin Hood's Bay Station, 7¼ miles from Whitby, itself still nearly 300 feet above the sea. Passing the fixed distance signal with Robin Hood's Bay below, we slow for the facing points of the passing loop. The goods warehouse with the white end door is now part of the village hall. The 1904 signal box was unusual in that the post office and refreshment room were attached to it. The station's parachute-style water towers were the only ones on the line. A specially built siding held 4 camping coaches and was only connected to the running tracks when movement in or out was required. During winter 1964, whilst delivering a load of gravel to a farmer's building site, my lorry slid off this farm crossing on the frosty timbers. There was a mad dash to the station to warn them, whilst the farmer got his tractor to pull it clear. With a view looking north of Robin Hood's Bay, we run inland to Filing Hall Station, 10 miles from Whitby. The line rises and falls until after the station, which is now only a halt, and has had its wooden station building demolished, leaving only the boarded-up brick signal box. Just south of Filing Hall is Stoop Beck Embankment, the largest on the line at 90 feet high. Climbing now begins in earnest, with some 3 miles at 1 in 39 to Ravenscar. With the line swinging eastwards, we come back towards the coast, with another glorious view of Robin Hood's Bay snuggling below Ness Point. On the left are run-off tracks for the gangers' motorised trolleys to be placed whilst maintenance is taking place in the area. At the turn of the century, Whittaker's Brickworks was established in the old alum quarries, also on the left-hand side. Passing Ravenscar fixed distant, we enter the 279-yard-long tunnel built at the insistence of a local landowner. The first tunnel was built on the wrong heading and had to be rebuilt onto its present course. The station layout was increased in 1908 with the addition of a passing loop and wooden platform for Whitby trains. As the climb on the south side was nearly as steep at 1 in 41, the station really was perched on a peak, and at 631 feet above sea level, the highest point on the line. Being so exposed, it was also extremely windy, the wooden waiting room once being blown away at the turn of the century. There were plans to build a spa-type town here, but they were never proceeded with, though some streets and drains were laid out. Passing the red fog sighting board, we run into Staintondale Station, 15.5 miles from Whitby. The small 15-lever lean-to signal box in front of the camping coaches was unique on the line, and probably the original 1885 one. As the station was on in a 172 gradient, trap points were installed at the Scarborough end of both lines of the passing loop. The original slotted post northeastern lower quadrant starter signal has been converted into an upper quadrant one. Haben Wyke Station at 16.5 miles from Whitby was always just a halt. In the early 1950s, the buildings were turned into a camping cottage and electricity installed. A Approaching Cloughton Station, we run over the only public level crossing on the line, right at the platform's end. 18.5 miles from Whitby, it had a healthy pit prop traffic from the Duchy of Lancaster's sawmills. Crossing a service DMU bound for Whitby, the station master is exchanging the single line tokens. Running past more camping coaches, we are on level track for only the third time since leaving Whitby. Scolby Station, 21 miles from Whitby, closed in 1953, but certain trains did still stop until 1964 for the benefit of the camping coach occupants. Coty Hill Bridge, carrying the Scarborough-Whitby Road, was rebuilt in 1961. At the north end of Gallows Close carriage sidings is Northstead Turntable, which was used to turn engines off the many summer excursions that came to Scarborough. These sidings were opened in 1908 in conjunction with Lonsborough Road excursion platforms. Trains could unload and then run forward through Falsgrave Tunnel up to Northstead to be parked, the engines being turned, cold and watered at facilities there, ready for the return journey. Another ganger's trolley is now the only occupant of the sidings. Gallows Close Goods Yard signal box also control the line to Whitby and access to the carriage sidings. With the single line token given up, we pull through the 260-yard long Falsgrave Tunnel and into Lonsborough Road platform, before reversing into Scarborough Central Station, 23.5 miles from Whitby. Whitby Line trains used to use a short bay just in front of the signal box, platform 1A, to save crossing the busy main running lines. At this date, platform 1 still had full-length awnings.
The railway from York to Scarborough opened in 1845. The town developed into a popular holiday resort, a queen of watering places. During the bank holiday period of summer 1939,